And to that point, we still need our Moo hero. I don't imagine this is going to be a clockwork Moo clockwork. Doesn't sound right. And when you pick up this hero for Moo, you keep that ambiguity. There's still a Mars in the pool if we really just needed an offlaner here, and I think that would feel pretty fantastic. But alone now on the Invoker, I'm getting a little bit excited here because while this Invoker is a little bit greedier, you are going to have those rotations. You're going to slow down the enemy mid laner, which is a much bigger aspect of the hero. Those EMPs, while they do put a lot of harass on them, it just slows down. You just have less mana to work with now if you are going to play that same farming style that we saw Gunnar play in the previous series on this Lina, where you are going to hit your timing just a little bit slower. You do need to be cautious about those rotations, and we'll have to see how many times Michael decides to make that rotation mid, because you do have a very active punishing type mid laner now, where if you get a very big tossback, this Lina will die on the Invoker's high ground.
So a little bit of a sort of combo play for Infamous. And again, yeah, we saw Michael try to do something similar in the last game on the Earth Spirit, and there was some success early, kind of dropped off, which is part of the reason why the Earth Spirit's really not quite as popular nowadays as it used to be. But Infamous hoping for something better with the Tiny. For Zoomers, though, in with the Sand King with that fourth selection. So yet another hero that we've seen sort of move around multiple times, could just run it in Moo's hands in the off lane. Gunnar could take it mid if they really wanted to. So the Lina could end up mid. The Sand King could end up mid. They could just draft a mid laner with that final selection. They have kept their options open, and I think at this point, really, they're just going to look for who has the best lane up against that Invoker.
And if the Sand King does end up going versus the Invoker, it will just be a farm fest. The Invoker does need to be careful, but you will just drag the creep wave into that small camp. There's not much that the Invoker can do to slow down the Sand King. Is much better at slowing down the Lina, but we will probably see Moo on the Sand King, even though I think now they might need a Z-Freak hero. It's hard to say because if it is going to be Moo on that Sand King, do you really want a Sand King Clockwork lane? I don't really think so, especially since we might need a 5 or we might need a carry now coming from Infamous. Four Zoomers are almost positive that this is going to be another carry coming out for our boy Lumiere, but at the same time, I'm not entirely convinced. I feel like Infamous, at least with their bans, are sort of eyeing up what they want, and I'm trying to think of fives that could really be your mic drop hero for Infamous. And thinking of I don't think he would want to play that last pick Viper Treant Protector. We usually see him play the Treant Protector when he does have this very late pick priority, and it would feel honestly pretty nice versus the Four Zoomers lineup as of right now. But I'm more sort of perplexed where what does Four Zoomers want? It's going to probably be a mid Lina. Let's see if Gunnar went AFK. They pick me Lina. I go AFK. But do you really want a Clockwork Sand King lane? And if you're going to get a Clockwork Sand King lane, sure, that's great and all, but who are you going to pair with this Luna? We've seen a lot of melee heroes paired with the Luna in these past few days. I feel like a big advantage of picking this Luna is actually having that double ranged harassment coming out on the enemy offlaner. And you look at Timbersaw Tiny, that's double melee. You're going to be able to zone them off of your creep wave if you do end up going for a hero like that. So really, I wonder what four Zoomers are going to value with this last pick. I think you're going to understand a lot of their values depending on what hero they pick up here.
Mm-hmm. There's just so many different directions that they can really take it, and as you said, what this final choice really is going to solidify the tempo they want to play at, the game plan that they're going to try to put together here, because, well, like I said, they could take it in multiple different directions. I'm not really sure which of them is the best at the moment, but they are taking their time on this one. 15 seconds left on the clock, but we do see the pick coming in now, and it's going to be the Willow.
Okay, and it is a Z-Freak hero, and it makes a lot of sense. That's why I was still confused why Infamous were going for these bans. I guess they thought that, like me, the Lina was going to be a Z-Freak hero like we had in that other game, but instead, it'll most likely be this Gunnar Lina. It's going to be the Z-Freak Dark Willow, and I do think that slots in a lot better with the Sand King. It makes the Sand King's lane make more sense. Unfortunately, now you have Luna Clockwork in your bottom lane, so you are going to not have that double ranged advantage. Hopefully, Husky will be able to sit out in front of his safe laner, make sure that he's able to get a lot of safe farm. And then everyone else kind of makes sense, except for this Axe last pick, which Lumiere, we've seen it before. We've seen it many times. I think this is one of the scant instances where we're actually getting a South American team picking safe lane Axe. I believe Furia Jovim is one of the teams that still really prefers to pick it, and they like to pick it early and then flex it around. A lot of times, though, when we see the early phase Axe, we see it get countered and then immediately shoved into the off lane because you need some sort of impact. So getting a overall last pick Axe is pretty rare in this meta, especially with how much certain teams value it. So, okay, not bad. Four Zoomers do make the right call that this is going to be an A gyro, something that we are privy to from our previous gigs casting the infamous lineup. But still, I think getting this overall last pick Axe is still very, very strong.
Yeah, it's definitely something that Four Zoomers really could not have prepared for. Very rarely do we see that Axe in the pause one roll among the sort of North and South American teams, as you were sort of alluding to. So it's something that Four Zoomers are going to have to adjust to. We'll see how well they play up against it. At the end of the day, you're still sitting on an Eternal Envy Luna. We saw what Gunnar did on the core Lina the last time we played it earlier tonight. So you don't really need to be sort of thinking to yourself, oh crap, we weren't ready for this Axe at all. But you do have to take into account the fact that Infamous's game plan is going to look a little bit different now with that Axe as opposed to maybe some of the more traditional carries that we have seen.
And fortunately for Infamous, this is exactly in Lumiere's wheelhouse. Whenever we get to watch Lumiere completely pop off on this team, it's whenever he's on his Magnus, whenever he's on his Faceless Void, he really is adept at playing those secondary initiators from the safe lane. So Axe slots in perfectly. I really like this player-hero combo.
Yeah, we'll see what Lumiere can do with it. Looking to get Infamous. No. The 1-1 draw here. Trying to bring that winning streak to an end. Four Zoomers have now taken 3 in a row. I'm looking to make it 4, but we'll see how this one plays out as we do get things underway.
When you look at four Zoomers, they're placing more or less the exact same wards. Another really good ward to scout out any rotation going towards Alina's lane. And that's something that, of course, they need to be prepared for. With this Tiny, it's another very easy rotation hero. But I wonder if they make the call. They're already pinging it just a little bit. I think A is actually going to whiff with his Sentry, possibly.
We'll see. He's holding it for now. Not going to go just yet, but at this point, I don't know. If you're Infamous, maybe you start to suspect something. Yeah, you see they're pinging it out. It's going to depend on the placement, though. If he actually throws it up onto that particular high ground spot, it may... Oh, okay, never mind. He's not going to throw down the Sentry. It's actually the obs ward that he puts up there, and that should have been... Yeah, should have been scouted out. I think they're pinging it there. So they know that that's in position. Husky is not going to be able to deward it immediately, but he should know.
And I don't think they really need to deward it, possibly if this fight does go awry, if there is a bunch of rotations over here. This is one of the nicest wards for Infamous when you do want to make a dive on that mid-tier 1 Dire Tower. But at the same time, they got what they want. They're going to be able to see Tiny making the play onto the Lina, perhaps after he's able to gauge what Gunnar's doing with his movements. If he does really back off hard with the Tiny closing in, we'll have to see. Wards like this, when you don't know about him on the Infamous side, they definitely foster some sort of baiting counterplay coming out from 4Zoomer. They definitely know they like to go for those type of plays.
And up in the top lane, you see Husky trying to go to work early with that battery assault. He is taking a fair bit of damage, though. Sacred, I think, hit him up twice with the Timber Chain. Michael now actually gets the toss back into the chain. That's a nifty little combo, but it's not going to secure them the kill, but that's 3 Timber Chains worth of damage onto Husky and 1 or 2 onto Envy right off the start. So Sacred and Michael really not just going to let Envy sit back and enjoy himself here. They are going to try and apply that pressure, and to a certain extent, I wonder if Sacred will even maybe go for an early point in the Whirling Death. That is maybe a little bit risky. It will come at the expense of his durability with the reactive armor, but if they keep on going like this, yep, there's the Whirling Armor into the Avatos, and, excuse me, the Whirling Death, as they do find the kill onto Envy. First Blood goes their way. Michael does die afterwards, but if this is a sign of things to come, Infamous are just going to play so far up in this lane, really just give the Luna no room to breathe.
And it's really beautiful because not only that, Eternal Envy misses an entire wave. Unfortunately, yeah, Sacred is going to take a little bit of damage here and does need to be a little bit cautious of the clockwork. But you give the Soul XP over to your Timbersaw just that little bit more. It's something that Michael is going to look to do whenever he gets the opportunity. You never want to lane directly with your Timbersaw. You want to try and give him as much of that Soul experience as possible just because he needs it. He needs that level 3, 4 once you get 2 points in reactive. And just look at Michael, just always on the prowl, trying to get this efficient damage onto Envy, whereas Husky has to wait for his courier. He has to sit back.
Yeah, they're just going to really keep on going at it. Now that they've gotten that first kill, they know this isn't really speculative anymore. They can find the kill in the right circumstances. So they're going to go at it. Michael even gets back in there for the sort of pull as well. So that's going to sort of pull the equilibrium back. Now Michael, he's actually smoked his way towards that middle lane. So could this be the play onto Gunnar? Lina is pushing so far forward. This is exactly what they want. Michael is going to have the smoke pop. They even bring in A for the assistance. And, well, Gunnar should be going down there. There's going to be the toss. Michael had to make sure that he wasn't going to toss that range creep instead. But once he's clear, toss comes through. And Alone is even the one to get the kill. That's going to make that even better. You get that money directly into the hands of your mid laner.
Yeah, and he gives himself the my bad, the cheeky tip over to the side of Gunnar. You don't need to do that. You did get 3 heroes on 1, both in situations where the creep waves were pushing into themselves already, so Infamous can make those rotations, and that's where you need to be a little bit scared, I think. If you do see that gyrocopter rotating out, maybe you try to make the call, because this is exactly how Infamous like to play this gyrocopter. Whenever it is in the hands of A, he tries to sync up and meet up with his allies as much as possible, just create those opportunities for his teammates.
And you see him kind of restocking a little bit here, getting a whole heck of a lot of regen. So he is going to look to make his way bot. Runs into Z-Freak first, though. Hits him up with the sort of first point up in the rocket barrage. The homing missile now connects as well, but Z-Freak's really not going to be hurt too badly, although saying that, he does take a pretty substantial amount of damage. Now the Battle Hunger even thrown out at the end as well. Only level 1 from Lumiere, so I don't believe it's really in any danger of getting a kill, but it keeps Z-Freak back. He's not really going to be able to fully heal up until that DOT comes to an end. So Lumiere's just trying to maintain control of the lane. He's got 30 last hits so far, so there's not a whole lot Mu is doing directly against him.
And that's where we typically see this large camp, and you actually place the sentry right here. They don't want it to be blocked.
Homing missile in. Lumiere has the taunt. He's going to throw it down. Needs a few more spins, though. RNG's not quite favoring him, but yeah, Mu's going to be able to walk away. Even throws down his own sentry just to take down that one that Infamous had placed. So he knows if he wants to sort of maneuver around that camp, he cannot afford to leave that that ward up and running. So he's able to get through it, but it just feels like Lumiere really is going to get anything he wants out of this lane. Mu is still doing well for himself, 22-1, so it's not like they're shutting him down on the Sand King, but comparatively speaking, Infamous don't have a whole lot to worry about right now.
Yeah, and that's where A is just working to shut down the enemy for as much as possible. We're seeing Z-Freak have a lot less space to roam around the map as Michael has a completely free time and still giving a lot of that soul XP over to Sacred and doing a lot of damage now onto the clockwork. They can't really get the kill here, but as soon as Sacred hits that level 6, that's when we're really going to see this Timbersaw start to get active on the map. Whereas Gunnar, again, top of the CS board, he just always finds time to farm the small camp.
Yeah, he is doing quite nicely for himself, and we saw the last time around it was kind of similar. The Lina didn't exactly just get off to a massive start, but the build-up was so steady that eventually he was able to sort of hit the power spikes that he wanted. So it is a much more sort of balanced approach from Gunnar. He doesn't just go all in for the farm, but you can never really fully take him out of it either. That is one of the things that Gunnar sort of does so well. He is constantly finding something for himself. So, building up.
Husky.
Boots of Travel very nearly finished. But yeah, in the river, Husky gonna get the mana burned away, and well, he pops his stick charges, but he actually gets Alone in the cogs with him. But, well, okay, never mind. Husky could have gotten away, but he says no. You're not getting out of there. Even body blocks so that Alone, once again, is the one who gets the actual credit for the kill. So, this gyrocopter is starting to have a little bit more of an effect. He's not going to get an assist on that play, obviously, but we know it. It's an assist in our hearts as A helps that one out.
And that's where you saw Lone actually TP top. He wanted to start to get aggressive, play with Sacred on this 5-minute cart. And that's where you have to have your Sand King come and take these waves. Unfortunately, Alone did actually cancel his TP, but I think the Sand King, as of right now, with the Vanguard, is too difficult of a kill for really anyone on Infamous to make unless they have a very heavy 3 to 4 man committal. But now we're going to see Eternal Envy. Doesn't have the most levels, but doesn't really have the fastest farming space. You see Gunner now occupying the bottom lane while Z-Freak soaks some levels mid, and the Eternal Envy Luna is stuck farming really the scraps of the jungle.
And up in the top
On
lane,
top too.
and
Yeah.
Moo's going to get jumped in on. The sentry ward was already placed, so there's not really any backup for him right now. That TP was coming in, but it does end up getting canceled, so I'm not really sure it would have been in time to help out anyway, so they just kind of cut their losses. They'll let Moo go. The thing is, and now you've got a path onto that tier 1 tower. Sacred's clearing through the creep wave. They got a wave of their own coming up, so they could hit at this, but Sacred and Michael not exactly the most prolific tower takers on Timber and the Tiny, but I mean, Sacred can just sit here. If the tower starts hitting him up, he's got the reactive armor, so he's not going to do it quickly, but somebody has to come and stop him, otherwise he is going to get that tower. Envy really doesn't want to be the one to make that rotation, though. And we do see Z-Freak making his way over. There's now a TP coming in from Moo as well, but at this point, Sacred is actually really taking a little bit of time to finish this one off. But tower should eventually fall. While he's taking the tower, though, the rest of Infamous, they're getting pretty close. Michael and A are pushing forward. Sentry gets thrown down, so they have the vision onto Moo. They're going to hit him up now with that cold snap. Do they actually chase after him? Yes, they will. There's going to be the homing missile into the EMP. The avalanche even comes out, so Moo really just doesn't get to move right now. The toss even going to throw him up in the air, but he's somehow still not dead. They haven't got the last bit of damage, and now Envy is moving his way forward. Sees a pretty easy kill onto Michael as they will bring him down. They do get A as well. That is both of the supports taken down, and Infamous were kind of hoping for a chance to get onto those cores, and they did take their opponents by surprise, but it just wasn't quite enough. They really did need to get that Sand King down first and then move on, but they don't have enough to punch through, and that kind of breaks up the rest of the fight.
And it's a little bit greedy coming in from Sacred. He was still playing in the creep wave. I think if he's immediately there when they find Moo with the cold snap, perhaps they're able to keep him locked down just that little bit more, supply some of that burst damage, because instead you get kited, you have wait, suddenly Gunner is now showing up to our fight, and it just doesn't feel fair. And it's a lot of time wasted on the Infamous side that now for Zoomers, they're taking a lot of stacks, and it's all going to the Sand King. He's farming the Ancients, he's farming the large camp, he's already killed, I think, 4 or 5 big stacks on his own just to accelerate himself. And you're seeing a lot of teams now actually prioritize whenever you have heroes like the Sand King in the Timbersaw. If you're able to give them those stacks over your safe laners, they're going to be able to do so much more around that 10-minute window where we do see a lot of offlaners make those trips towards the mid lane. And actually bottom Gunner, he's surrounded.
Yeah, they are in onto the Lina. No escape route for him at the moment, so Lumiere is going to be able to find that kill, getting himself involved for the first time. First kill of the campaign. 1 on the board, and that's a good rotation. Alone and Michael in there for a pretty easy kill, all things considered. Normally your Lina is fast, if maybe not elusive, but without the boots of travel, the Gunner is not quite as speedy as he needed to be to get away from that. And now Moo getting kind of spotted out by the illusions, but at this point they're not really looking for that fight. Instead, they're just trying to put some damage onto the tower, but they get a little bit. Nothing too serious, though. Meanwhile, up in the top lane, A, sort of acting as the bait, pulling Husky and Envy forward. They do have Sacred rotating his way over, but with Gunner TPing in, this fight is going to get too complicated. They don't have the numbers advantage, and at that point, just better for them to back off. But as soon as that play ends, we see 4 Zoomers looking for the smoke. Gunner, Envy, and Husky all looking for it. Husky's level 6, so clearing out of his way to try and get that hook shot down. We'll see if he can spot a target, but as of right now, Vision's a little hard to come by, but he continues to push his way into the river, and they might actually go all the way across.
They're
What
checking
can
the
they
stacks.
find?
Well,
They do have eyes on
the
Sacred.
Timbersaw, but this is a hard kill.
They are going for it. Sacred, though, he's so durable right now. There's going to be the Laguna out from Gunner, though, into the hookshot from Husky. They just keep him locked down, and Sacred eventually falls. He is tanky, but not invulnerable, as now Lumiere, got to get the call off to make sure the Sand King can't channel out the ult, but once Moo sort of gets over the initial lockdown, he should be okay. They can't bring him down. That's kind of twice now that we've seen that from Infamous. They don't have the damage to just really break through the Sand King, and I think a lot of that comes from the fact that he got this early Vanguard. He just proves to be more durable than Infamous were ever really anticipating.
And up until Alone gets a few more points in that Exort, you're not going to see a lot of damage coming out from this Invoker. You are playing that more control style, that tempo-based Invoker where you try to slow down the enemy mid laner as much as possible and then play for yourself. But now, Alone, he needs this Midas. He's falling very far behind Gunnar right now. Gunnar has had more or less a free time with his Boots of Travel, and I think Lumiere just got finished farming that massive Ancient stack, so he will be closing up on that Manta style pretty soon here. But the only issue with this safe lane axe is now we are stuck waiting another 8 minutes. No matter how fast, no matter how good you are at farming these stacks and playing around your timings, you are without bound by this Aghanim Shard being a 20-minute item. You cannot do anything. You have to wait. You're going to see him probably move up, cut the waves a little bit, but that's where Infamous, the rest of the supporting cast, they need to make space. They need to keep their head above water. They can't afford to lose too many buildings pre that timing.
Yeah, and that is just sort of the downside of this build. There are some laws in the Dota world that you just simply can't break. Can't get that shard any earlier, so Lumiere can continue building towards the next item. You do see the sort of Blink and the BKB queued up for him, so he can build up the money for the shard now and then wait until later to pick it up while building towards some other items. Meanwhile, A and Michael moving into the north side jungle right now, but not really sure what they're going to be able to get. Gunnar.
He's just pushing the bottom tower with the DD rune. He did half of that tier 2's health, and Infamous don't have anything. They're all playing in the enemy team's jungle without doing any pressure on the mid tower because, again, Moo is just too tanky.
Yeah, and
this is quite a big problem.
It's what we saw the last time. Again, I kind of keep saying that, but last time Gunnar was on this core Lina, the same thing happened as, okay, this time Infamous are going to try and make the jump. They do get down the cold snap into the EMP, into the Ava, into the toss back, and Gunnar should be taken down this time, but he's starting to build up a threat. So much of a threat that Infamous do come over to take him down, but that's what happened the last time. He was not a threat, so the opposing team said, okay, we don't maybe need to go out in search of Gunnar specifically, and then he slowly built up that strength, and by the time he was at sort of maximum power, you sort of were too late to really slow down that progression at all. So it's good on Infamous to get that kill there. They're just going to try and keep that Lina under wraps. If Gunnar turns into that sort of massive right-click cannon that he did in the previous series, then they are going to be hard-pressed to match up against that damage, especially with that core or carry axe in their lineup. As bottom lane, Michael is going to get sort of jumped in on a little bit here. He was trying to go for the Dark Willow, but Envy and Gunnar are there to help it out, and that 1v1 turns into a 1v3 pretty fast. Michael taken down. A was nearby, but he's going to back himself away. That courier's getting hit by a creep. You don't really see that all too often, but creep can't take it down by himself, and now Gunnar's going to get hit up. There's going to be the cold snap. Alone, what else does he have? He's waiting for the Tornado EMP combo. It is coming back up, but the Tornado doesn't connect. The call down deployed by A, though, into the Ice Wall. So Gunnar still going to get slowed up, should still go down, and Infamous, well, I said before, it was nice for them to sort of get that pressure on. They are going to keep the pressure on the Lina, looking to make sure that Gunnar never gets to that point where he can just mow down multiple heroes on the Infamous side.
And that's where, before for Zoomers, oh, Michael, that was a really good smoke break. You think he might get punished for it. What a good cogs back into the root as well, but if you're able to make the play onto the moon now, this would be a big trade out.
They need a little bit more damage, though, which kind of seems to be the running theme. Sunstrike, actually, yeah, that's pretty much the weakest Sunstrike possible. 2 points up in the Exor, it wasn't going to do it, but if you're Infamous, you do get away. Michael is able to sacrifice himself to avoid what would have been probably a much larger sort of engagement. So if you're 4 Zoomers, that's not the kill that you wanted, but at least you get something. But Infamous avoid more dire consequences as Alone actually wants in. Sacred's going to jump forward as well. They're in onto the Dark Willow, and, well, the Shadow Realm does sort of make you untargetable, but it doesn't make you invulnerable. That AoE damage is still deployed. Z-Freak gets taken down, and now we see Infamous going in for that Tier 1 tower again.
And I think with sort of the reset not being there, they are going to get this more or less for free, and they want to put more pressure onto this tier 2 tower. Gunnar continues to want to play down here, and finally he does have the Sand King to give him that little bit of safety, that safety net where if I do get initiated on, I'll have that Blink Burrow Strike to help me out just a little bit. But Gunnar's actually trying to set up on Michael, but Michael, something's wrong here. His game sense, it's definitely tingling right now. He knows if he shows on this wave, it's got to be a fantastic tornado from Alone, or from Yeah, actually from alone. Otherwise, he is just going to fall down here. But as soon as the slave gets shown from the tree line, both plays kind of die out.
Yeah, everybody sort of sensing something was up. This is not just the 1v1 that either side anticipated, so Michael's able to keep himself safe, and actually he just bought himself a blink. So your position 4 Tiny gets a blink at about 16, 17 minutes. That is not bad for him. Going to open up a lot more in the way of Michael trying to initiate into these fights, which is something Infamous honestly weren't having significant issues with before, but now having another hero who can make that jump in is going to give 4Zoomers more angles that they now have to cover.
Oh, and this ward,
Okay.
so good from Zoomers. I thought that Sacred had actually pinged it out, but okay, interesting dust as well. But they're drawing the lines right now, and if they're not able to get the exact sort of jump here, the perfect initiation, they've really made a nice base in their enemy's jungle right now. And unless they decide to put pressure on this mid-tier 2 tower, 4Zoomers can just do this. So they're going to have to TP down here if they want to get a defense. But little do they know that both the Luna and the Luna are standing right next to each other. They only know about Eternal Envy right now, but it's that game sense. And if 4Zoomers want to, they could collapse on this mid tower, but really only if they get a target. But Infamous are just playing a little too smart right now. And okay, Moo.
Making the jump in onto Sacred. Gonna try and lock him down, but this Timbersaw is relatively tanky. Not that tanky, though. Not 5 heroes throwing everything they've got at you tanky. The Eclipse, the Laguna, the hook shot, just everything that they had gets deployed.
Now Envy, if he gets punished, that would be the punish, but Alone is scouting out Moo right now. Oh, here they're gonna go anyway.
Moo goes on to A. Michael in with the blink, gets the toss back. Moo is going to get thrown under the tower, but they don't have the follow-up damage. Over and over again, Moo is just proving to be a little bit too durable, but Lumiere does put a stop to it. Blinks in, gets the call, and will be able to get the dunk down for the pickoff. But you lost both of your supports, and this tier 1 tower is looking like it's taking too much damage. Envy and Gunner coming in. Good disarm play from Alone, but only disarms 1. Gunner is still able to finish it off, and 4Zoomers get what they wanted. 2 kills in the tower. Moo, yeah, you got to sacrifice him, but it's going to get them back in the lead in terms of that net worth.
And that's where I think that they wanted Lumiere to feel confident enough to go in forward, but Lumiere has so many items, and still you can't buy that shard. It just sucks a little bit because you look at his last hits, you look at his net worth, he is jacked on this axe. There really is no one to contest him, but as soon as you commit all those spells onto Sacred before that entire engagement goes down, it does run out of gas in the tank. Lumiere can make that jump without really feeling threatened. And unfortunately, I think Michael being the one to have to toss Moo onto the axe, it just doesn't feel great giving away deaths on this tiny hero. You really want to sort of sit in the top lane, push out those waves, send out some clarities, but you need a few more items before you can really feel incredibly confident on this tiny hero. But again, we're waiting for that shard. We're waiting for that 20-minute mark where Lumiere can now suddenly kill any hero on the map, no matter the farm, no matter the level. That's what Lumiere is waiting for.
Yeah, he doesn't have to wait long to get it. Only a couple seconds away now. He's got the money, so he has actually just straight up been waiting. But he'll have the shard in his hands. He's got the BKB already queued up, and actually already started progress on it. He's sitting on the hammer right now, so you're going to have the shard. You're going to have a BKB. You've got the Blink Manta. This is where Lumiere really is going to see his time to shine, and 4Zoomers are going to have to be ready for that. The last couple of times we mentioned Moo, with that added sort of durability, hasn't been taken down quickly, but if Lumiere can get in onto him with the shard upgrade, start proccing off of some of those basic attacks, then you are going to have that little bit of extra push that you need, presumably to finish the Sand King off. And once Moo falls, then you have to start worrying about the rest of the lineup.
And very similar to this Lina on the other side, where if you're able to find that jump initiation, if Lumiere is able to get Gunner in a call, the Lina is just going to die. You have this BKB, you don't have any protection versus that pure damage. You're just going to go down. You have to rely on your teammates to save you. The big flaw with this Axe carry is that, very similar to having that Ursa carry, you do not hit buildings very well, very fast. You are going to rely on your teammates, on other means to really force down these towers, whereas for Zoomers have a much easier time pushing everything down, where they don't have the Terrorblade again, but Lena does just enough damage to push down these towers in an expedient fashion, as well as the BKB being built up by this Luna now. And once you have these items, I think for Zoomers are going to take these fights with even more confidence, where they are smoking up, but I don't think they're strong enough to smoke up and break the triangle right now. If Infamous just stay fast and stay strong here, I don't think 4 Zoomers can do this. This is a little bit crazy.
Yeah, it does feel kind of risky for them, especially if Gunner's not there. Maybe if you've got the Lena, then you can punch through with that Laguna Blade, just sort of isolate someone and take them down. And you can see there, they are not fully willing to commit into that triangle area. They push instead into the south side jungle. So that's probably the smarter choice for them. Unfortunately, that means they're not going to run into much of anything enemy-wise, but if you go up onto that high ground and you lose that fight, then really this momentum gets sapped away instantly, and Infamous are the ones who are going to push forward again with that axe sort of hitting a timing. So would it have been interesting? Yes. Would it have been successful? Who knows? But 4 Zoomers not willing to take that chance. They'll regroup. Maybe at this point they can try and bait Infamous over onto their own side, but Infamous have been doing a pretty decent job of not really overextending right now. They're playing disciplined. They're trying to wait for... Actually, I was going to say wait for the BKB, but he did just finish it off. So now, yeah, it's go time. 5-man smoke. Infamous are going to push into the south side jungle, where 4 Zoomers still hanging out. Husky, though, good spot in the tree. Going to be able to pop that smoke. And even jetpacks himself away. Nice. Husky hooks to his teammate just to make sure. There's going to be the Cataclysm, though, coming out. And the call from Lumiere made sure Moo was stuck in that Cataclysm. They'll find that kill. Now they want more. Husky trying to TP away. Lumiere, he canceled out the Culling Blade. I don't think that Husky was in the threshold, so
so fast.
He's going to hold it. But yeah, the TP's top.
Careful.
Gunner's got a BKB, but Alone is just going to sneak up on him. Lumiere blinks in first. They're going to drop that Lena here unless he can pull off some sort of miracle. There is going to be the BKB, but it's just not going to matter. Lumiere, he popped his own BKB. I'm not really sure he needed that, but better safe than sorry, just in case Gunner was trying to make a run for it. And Infamous, that's 2 big kills. They take down Moo, they take down the Lena, and that leads them into the Roche pit.
And originally, I didn't think Lumiere would have enough in the tank to get that kill onto the Lena. He didn't have that Manta style up for a few more seconds, and for Zoomers, they need to go fast. They have 7 seconds on the hook shot, but they've got to go. Otherwise, this is not going to be enough. Oh, no.
Moo is going to try to channel out the ult, but he's not hitting anything. Oh, man, that is brutal. Moo. Well, they're still going to go. Okay. They've got Sacred. They stun him up. Good kill to start things off. They're in onto Michael now as well, keeping him isolated from the rest of his team, but where's the damage? There it is. Envy tries for it. They are going to be able to take Michael down, but Lumiere blinked onto the high ground, got the taunt, pulls in Envy, and they will be able to take him down. Now they want more. Moo, though, he's going to be able to get away. The Curse Crown will help him make his escape, but maybe not. Alone wants in. There's going to be the Deafening Blast. Lumiere getting off those spins, and they're not going to be able to save Moo. Now Gunner, this feels so risky, and yeah, that's exactly why. Lumiere hits him up with the taunt once again. Alone trying to stick around, waiting out those abilities, but now Michael's in, blinking forward. Avalanche into the toss. Gunner, though, able to pop the BKB, so he's not dead just yet, but he needs to turn around to get those hits onto Lumiere, otherwise the Blink Dagger is going to get him into position as Lumiere wants it, but it's actually the Sunstrike from Alone. Well placed. Gunner, he's so worried sort of about running from the people behind him that he can't dodge the Sunstrike in front, so 4 Zoomers, that's kind of the fight that we were afraid of them taking earlier in that triangle. They kind of walk into a similar scenario, and all of that sort of spreads from the, maybe not desperation, but the incentive that 4 Zoomers felt they had to try and contest Roshan.
And they knew that they needed to make it fast. They just didn't have it in the tank, so Moo goes for the second best option. He tries to get the double initiation onto Michael and to Sacred, and I believe you do end up getting both of those kills, but Eternal Envy just veers a little bit too close to that low ground, and very simply, Lumiere gets to blink call him, and there's not much to say. You get blink called by this axe at this point in the game. You are more or less going to die. He doesn't even have the really good item, which is either that Moon Shard or AC after the fact. Once he gets that, that's when these heroes are going to melt in seconds. And Envy again.
Jumps in on Cataclysm, comes through. The damage is there. Can Envy get away? He did pop the BKB. And now Lumiere, he's actually the one falling. He is standing in the middle of that Epi. So they've taken him down once. Can they get him again? There's going to be the pushback from the Cogs. Moo going in for the Burrow Strike to get the Laguna Blade down as well. Lumiere's going to die a second time. Excellent play from 4 Zoomers, but they need more. They're in onto Sacred. Michael trying to create a distraction, hitting up about 3 or 4 heroes with the Avalanche. Alone now comes in with a very nice tornado into that meteor. Oh my god, Alone just destroyed everyone. It's a triple kill for him, and now...
Okay.
Whoa, wow. I'm surprised we're not seeing Infamous tipping Alone right now. He just saved the entirety of that fight. That was a massive series of spells. The tornado, the EMP, the meteor, it just really annihilated 4 Zoomers. And to be fair for 4 Zoomers, they felt like they had that fight. They were surging their way forward, but the Avalanche keeps them all grouped up. Alone comes in to sort of put the icing on top, and that is such a clutch fight for them. And yeah, you lose Lumiere as well as his Aegis, but you're still pushing with 4 onto the high ground. But where's their creep wave? There it is. Okay. Only a few seconds behind.
But that's not just Alone being amazing. That wasn't a fight. That was a complete disengage. Michael also had a pretty much 5-man avalanche, and maybe you'll lose A here on the back end. And that was a fantastically placed Cogs to chain up Lumiere post Aegis. He wasn't able to get his BKB off, but Alone 5-man tornado, 5-man meteor, 5-man deafening blast, 5-man EMP. You don't see that every day. That was just the complete salvage. That wasn't a fight. That was 4 Zoomers taking back the lead, killing the monster, and then go looking for your teammates. And Alone just holds down the fort. He's so much further ahead now. He was not sitting pretty net worth wise. Jay just purchased his Blink Dagger. Now you're already sitting on 3,000 gold. This is just such a big lead now that Infamous now get to work with. Now Alone, once he has this BKB, doesn't have to worry about falling prey to anyone on the 4 Zoomers side. We're not seeing that physical damage come out by either of the 4 Zoomers cores yet. Their games are just not that good right now. You see 7 deaths on the Lena, and you see Eternal Envy has the Ag Shard, but is struggling to get that Daedalus finished up, feeling like he needs to continuously show up to these fights now. I think if Lumiere finds any more initiations, Infamous are gonna start to roll you here. They have to take the next fight so bad.
They've smoked us 4. They want this play so bad. They can feel it in their bones. They're gonna jump forward. There's Husky, gonna get hit up first. Not able to take him down just yet, but Sacred timber chaining his way forward. They do find that kill. Actually, Husky dies to the neutral, but Moo is in there for the epi, but unlike last time, there's not a lot of follow-up. So Lumiere holds his ground, gets the kill inside of that call. And at this point, 4 Zoomers, I don't know about this one. Envy is going to give it a go, though, popping the Eclipse, but they can't actually keep the Timber from chaining away. And now... No, they do have Michael sort of trapped up in here, but that's going to lead Lumiere back in. He gets the taunt down. Gunner's the one in some trouble. BKB was activated, though, so he's able to dish out the damage, and they do take Lumiere down. So this is starting to turn in a much more favorable direction as Lumiere falls. Sacred's dead. A is on the run. Husky, though, with that jetpack, is going to be able to catch up. Drops the Cogs on top of him, but Alone in with that tornado again. A trying to just make his way out of this, and at this point, Husky realizing, I don't really know how much backup I'm going to have now. Maybe we pull this one back a bit. So they're not going to go for that. They do see Michael in the middle lane, though, so the Tiny has to make sure he's not overextending either, but they do manage to get most of them away. They lose Sacred, they lose Lumiere, but, well, if you're 4 Zoomers, you need that play. It's pretty good for them, but they had to commit a buyback there. It's not really a massive one, but okay. That's unfortunate for Husky. He tries to get himself out, but he's run down anyway. Alone gets the kill. Gunner now with the Laguna Blade, but Michael's going to stand tall through that Moo, though. Does put an end to it. Burrow strikes his way forward. They will find the kill, and now Alone is the one who needs to retreat. He pops the BKB as well as the Ghost Walk to get himself away, and that should be the actual end of that fight, as we had a little bit of an epilogue there.
Yeah, and again, Infamous are giving away this axe a little bit. I think they're staying a little bit too much after the fact. I thought that they made that jump onto Gunner thinking that perhaps that was Envy, because they jumped him as if that BKB was not going to be a factor, but Gunner just pops his BKB, turns on both of the heroes that jumps him, and gets the free kills, more or less. Same with Envy, who shouldn't have been able to sit back in the fight, but they're killing your teammate, they're not killing you, so you get to be a little bit more efficient, a little bit more effective after the fact. And
Moo. They don't have
he's
detection
gonna see both
here.
of them here. Oh,
Burrow
boy.
Strike comes through. Are they here to fight? Not really. That might have been a bit too early. I don't think the Invis was about to wear out, so maybe he could have waited longer, but Moo goes for it. Can't really blame him for it in that instance, and Infamous are at least able to back themselves away, but now they've got to be kind of careful. That was just an Invis rune that time, but Infamous don't necessarily know that for certain. Oh, boy. Know that for certain as Gunner just Laguna'd an illusion, and Alone Alone's going to tip him, although Alone's been tipping him pretty much the entirety of the match, so... kind of to be expected at this point, but Laguna not on that long of a cooldown, so really outside of the mana cost, I don't think that's going to hurt too much, although Infamous are now smoking up, pushing forward. Maybe they catch this right on the timing where the Laguna is still sort of cooling down. And without that damage on Gunnar, this could be hard for Zoomers to hold, but there's not going to be a fight. They pull back in time. And Husky, once again, on this clockwork, kind of sounding the alarm early. He has broken, I think, 2 or 3 smokes in recent times just to make sure his teammates don't get jumped in on first.
And now on Infamous, you need to check yourself a little bit here. I think you take a step back, let Lumiere finish his next item. You see already in the pipeline, he's looking for that Assault Cuirass, he's looking for that Abyssal Blade. Then you are going to see him still put out crazy amounts of damage. And we keep seeing whenever that Cataclysm does fall on the Axe Call, these heroes are dying. We're just struggling to find those backline targets. Lina and the Luna are both playing pretty fantastically position-wise this here forward, as most of their deaths have been in that early phase of the game. Now their deaths are going to matter a lot more if they can keep on avoiding them. Gunnar working towards that Satanic is going to have it pretty soon here, and you're just not going to be a target. Look at him now, already sitting at 3.1k HP. He's a very tanky Lina right now.
Yeah, so you're not going to have that sort of quick and easy pickoff, so who else do you go on? Do you look at Envy? He's going to have Eclipse and a BKB. That's not easy. Maybe you go on to Mu, but we have repeatedly talked about the issues they've had just sort of punching through him quickly. So you're looking at sort of supports being the easiest kills for them to get, which is normally how it goes. But you would like to take one of those cores out first, and if they can't really do that, then your options are limited. The way you can initiate is limited. And if you can't initiate onto the right heroes, that is going to open up so much for your opponents to potentially work against. So we'll see how Zoomers approach this fight. They continue to sort of build up this strength. Mu just got himself the Aeon Disc. Envy, though, finished the Daedalus. That's going to be a big one. They are so big right now damage-wise. Envy is going to hit like a truck. Gunnar is maybe not quite up there in the damage output just yet, but again, as we mentioned, that Satanic and the BKB means he's going to be dishing out damage in a much more sustainable manner across the entirety of this fight. So Infamous, they've got to be ready for this, and both sides you see sort of setting up in and around that Roche Pit, knowing that is really the major objective on the board.
They need to set up for this Luna. If they can get Eternal Envy on the backlines, that would be ideal. Right now, he does so much damage, but you look at his HP pool, he's sitting at 2360 with the strength treads. He really isn't that big of a deal right now, but as soon as he is able to get possibly that Scotty, possibly that Satanic in the pipeline, Axe is not a natural Scotty builder, so that item will feel a lot better this game than it would in any other carry core matchup. But that's where Infamous, they're waiting around this Roche Pit. They're going to let the map sort of refocus around this objective. They can still look for this pick on Gunnar bottom if they'd like to, but it just drags everyone out of where they want to be. I don't think they're going to let that happen, or we might need to wait for another Infamous smoke before we see this team get aggressive again. They just don't want to throw on that Roche side of the map.
Yeah, this is where things get so tense, because both sides realize a fight around that Roche Pit, if it goes wrong for you, then in the case of Infamous, they lose that lead. In the case of Zoomers, they put themselves really behind the 8 ball. That 4K lead would balloon up to, 8 to 10K. So this is the moment where patience, discipline, really going to pay off. Not the time for rash decisions. But Zoomers, well, they're going to try to push forward. They realize now, I think, that quite a few of these Infamous heroes have left, so maybe they can get themselves a quick pick, as they do have eyes on that. Oh, okay. Yeah, on that Tiny. They do manage to bring him down, but Alone and A were sort of off to the west. If they'd have waited a little bit longer, maybe they could have had those kills instead, but now Lumiere, he's into the fight. He gets the taunt down onto the Lunar. They're going to go for the Cataclysm, and Eternal Envy, he is down. He'll buy back immediately, though, as they look to keep this fight going. Good stun in for Mu, connecting onto 2. They're going to get the Terrorize down, too, and that's Lumiere taken out of the fight. He doesn't have money for buyback, so Infamous, they're starting to run out of gas here. A dies, he'll buy back. Sacred, still trying to fight his way through this, but there's really everyone arrayed against him there, as Gunnar will find the kill. Sacred now popping his own buyback. They are not willing to give up this Roche, but without the Axe, they're missing a lot of the lockdown and a lot of the damage, and now they're going to get caught. There's going to be the lockdown onto the Gyro. He's able to walk away for now, thanks to Michael intervening with the Avalanche, but this is really starting to break up. The cohesion from Infamous is lessening, but they've also gotten Gunnar away from his teammates, so if they could turn that into a trade, it would go fantastically for them. But Envy setting up on the high ground. BKB and Eclipse both going to work. They've taken down everyone. Those brambles in from Z-Freak. He shuts it down. You are not leaving. I'm going to throw down a couple of bramble mazes, and you just have to sit there and eat this damage. And they really can't stand up to it. Infamous have now lost everything. Everyone's dead, and there are 0 buybacks currently available. So we were talking about this before. If you take this fight around the Roche Pit and you lose, it could be game-defining, and Four Zoomers go from down by 5k to now up by 5k off the back of the fight and the Roche attempt after.
And with that initiation coming from Lumiere, you were able to get the Eternal Envy. You were able to get that buyback out from him, but that was Four Zoomers saying, we value your BKB more than we value our Luna's life. We can get an Aegis for her, but as soon as you pop that BKB on the axe, you can no longer show up. That was just a really well-timed buyback, a really good bait, I want to say, from the Luna. Of course, Envy never wants to die in these situations, but the fight pursues, and if you're able to take out this axe like they have, I feel like Lumiere has not been getting those very clean pickoffs where once you are initiated in, you are stuck there. And if you don't use your BKB to get out, you have to use that BKB because you're playing versus the Sand King, because you're playing versus this LSA. You have to use it almost defensively, just so that way you're not getting stunned up. You aren't doing as much damage as we would otherwise see from different axe players, from different axes in different games. It's just feeling like this matchup is possibly not as good as they expected. With now the 15k gold lead swapping over, Infamous now have to feel pretty scared. You have a full Satanic on top of your dieback Aegis carrying Luna. Of course, if they are able to kill the Luna again, it's going to feel good, but I don't think you can get through her twice right now. You have to at least get the Aegis out of her hand, possibly when she's pushing these tier 3 towers, but aside from that, the plays are ceasing from Infamous.
And now Gunnar, he's got the Daedalus up and running, so you have damage output from really multiple cores that are really far ahead of what Infamous are going to be able to put together right now. As Sacred is going to get jumped in on. Envy starts it off with the Lucent Beam. Moo is there with the Burrow, and Sacred, he is just not tanky enough right now. He is getting absolutely burned through, but they don't finish him off. That is a big play from Sacred, getting himself away. He will TP home. Now Michael, yeah, he is going to pay the price. But Michael dead instead of your Timbersaw, definitely something that Infamous are going to be thankful for, but now they've got to try to regroup. If they try to push in for any fight, they're guaranteed to really not have that numbers advantage.
And unfortunately, we're getting a similar situation where Michael is not able to make these plays anymore. You're seeing him struggle to find these initiations, where at the other end, Z-Freak is getting those counter initiations, putting brambles on everyone. Even if you yield yourself up in the air, purge them, it doesn't matter. That's where the BKBs, they matter so much for Infamous, and it feels more and more like Four Zoomers have really sort of usurped their timing. They've moved past what Infamous felt their strongest. And Lumiere, you see him, he's moved from sitting in the trees in the bottom lane to sitting in the trees in the top lane, looking for anyone weak, TPing back. There really is just no option for them at this point, because you have this Illusionist Cape on the Luna. You're able to push in 2 waves. You've got Mantis style if you want to push in 3 waves. I don't think right now Four Zoomers have a reason to be dislodged from Infamous's side of the map. And again, you don't have fantastic split push. You don't have pressure that you can actually put onto these towers. You see that even though they're missing that tier 3 bottom, and you will force Eternal Envy to TP back, as soon as they fix it, they're going to plant themselves exactly where they were before, right on your triangle.
And I think that is the thing. When we talk about the split push here, Infamous have the capability to split push lanes. But the difference is whether they can maintain control in that lane. You can send anybody across the map to try and sort of take down creep waves. That is relatively simple, but whether you can actually make that pressure stay in that position, we already see that creep wave starting to sort of align itself back in Four Zoomers' favor, with really Envy just sort of sending the illusions in there to get the job done. So Infamous can send people out, they can clear out some waves, but once they leave, Four Zoomers have been able to reestablish control fairly quickly the last couple of times we've seen this, and we even see it at work there. The Meteor clears through the creeps, but since it doesn't get the Luna illusion, it's just going to keep on pushing in Four Zoomers' favor.
And this item, the Illusionist Cape, is just so useful, especially when you're on a relatively fast carry. You just get to send it everywhere. You just get to farm so much more. And Michael, Moo's looking for the jump.
Can he make the escape? Not really.
Nope.
He's going to get hit up by the burrow. And, well, okay. Ghost Scepter will at least delay the death, but okay. That's a little harsh from Gunner, but that is going to be the kill going their way. Laguna down to a 50-second cooldown, so why not? You're going to have it up. Although, the mana being used kind of does hurt him a little bit, but if he really needs the mana that desperately, he is still sitting on the cheese. So, don't really think it's going to matter too much. They find the pickoff onto the Tiny. Said Tiny does not have buyback available. And we'll see if Four Zoomers look to push, but they are losing the Aegis right now. So, no second life up on the Luna. Envy's buyback still not off cooldown after that previous engagement. So, they may sort of cool it for a little bit, wait things out. And really, they don't need to feel all that pressured to make that maneuver. As we said, Infamous don't have the best means of trying to split push these lanes out.
And that's where you see Alone and Lumiere trying to set up on this bottom lane, trying to get the hero coming back to push it out, which would be your Gunner Lina. And if they're able to burst him, that would be great. But the problem is Alone, while he is a big source of damage coming from the Infamous lineup, you don't necessarily want him. He's going to commit that Cataclysm. He's going to put the Alacrity on his axe, but other than that, it doesn't really feel like it's going to work out unless you have damage coming from somewhere else, whether that is Sacred. But Sacred has 0 lockdown. He's felt like he's had nowhere to farm, nowhere to really play for the longest time now. And okay, Z-Freak.
They jump in onto Z-Freak. Cataclysm comes through. Actually, didn't really do all that much damage. Didn't hit onto too many, but Z-Freak should still die as they do bring him down. So that's going to be something. That's going to delay things a little bit if Four Zoomers... well, I guess they could take the fight without the Dark Willow, but I think they prefer not to. Said Dark Willow, though, if really needed, if called upon, could buy back, but at this point, I think Four Zoomers might just sort of wait this one out a little bit. They're still trying to push those lanes in, too, so they're going to focus a bit more on map control as A. Spotted out by the Flare, hit up by the Burrow, and he actually dropped the gem, too. That's a bit unfortunate. Moo is going to be able to take that one for himself, so... Yep. A just going on a bit of a dewarding mission. He does end up paying for it, though.
And now we're getting to the situation that we saw before where Gunner, he has the Scotty queued up. He's going to have so many items, so much HP. And if you ever get close to him, you are in the meat grinder. You are going to get shredded the further you get. And it's not going to feel fantastic at all, where we still need a little bit more of a jump coming from Lumiere. The reason there was such a big pause in aggression was because very simply we were waiting for another smoke to come back in stock. Now we've got 2 up on A once he respawns, but we're still seeing heroes on the Infamous side forced to play in these side lanes, forced to play scared, and I keep seeing this Illusionist Cape Illusion walking top, playing in the lane where nobody wants to play. You see Eternal Envy is just so efficient. He's critting for 1030 at this point. He's got a Scotty queued up in his back pocket as well. Unfortunately, I don't believe there was a Spider Legs on anyone. Otherwise, we'd be seeing even more powerful cores coming on the Four Zoomers side. But really, I don't think they feel like they're under any threat right now. Full Scotty backpacked by Gunner. He's going to put it in over that BKB probably in a second here. But 4,000 HP Lina, this is not an easy kill.
Yeah, and it's not just the Lina being tanky. Gunner is capable of dishing out just ridiculous amounts of damage as well. He's got the attack speed, he's got the damage, he's got the durability. Infamous, unless they can keep that Lina locked down inside of the Axe Call for an extended amount of time, are going to be hard-pressed to really find that kill. And if they do go for that Lina, presumably it's going to come at the expense of their ability to then lock down Eternal Envy. Unless Envy and Gunner are just sort of standing within like 3 feet of each other, you're not going to be able to sort of hit them both up with that taunt. So whoever you do lock down, the other one's going to be just hacking away at you.
And that's where I'm still looking for an in for a lot of these Infamous heroes where before they could make plays, now it feels like their bodies to push out waves. A and Michael specifically are no longer feeling very impactful despite giving a little bit of vision for the initiation coming in from your axe. Same with Alone, who is 11-1 and 10. He hasn't been giving up his body. He hasn't giving up any picks anywhere, but you're still seeing him unable to really rekindle that same play that he was able to make bottom, almost off of virtue of they don't want to risk another fight. They want to really just wait, play back, And unfortunately, the Eternal Enemy tried to TP to that bottom lane to catch the player split pushing, but alone with the game sense is able to make that easy reset. And I think Z-Freak scouting out Lumiere. I don't think he knows what he's trying to catch here. That's a big fish, but...
Yeah, and he doesn't have backup in this
Cool.
situation as Michael, waiting for his moment, blinking in. There's going to be the Ava. No toss, though, as the sort of Shadow Realm proc comes out instead. So Z-Freak should be able to get himself away here, but that was a bit of an ambitious play going for that initially. But now here comes Gunnar charging his way forward. Who does he pick to go on? Really the first hero he can see right now. That's going to be Sacred jumping in, looking for the stun, but Sacred throwing out both of the chakrams there. That's going to be doing a nice bit of damage. It's just not enough. Sacred still dropping. Can he somehow get away? No. Envy sort of hits him up with the Lucent Beam. Gunnar gets the damage in, and now that's Sacred dead for 80 with no buyback available.
Yeah, and unfortunately,
It's not that short.
they are too good at killing these waves right now. Infamous, especially Lumiere, has been a very good job of just being sneaky, getting in. Mid wave is the one wave that is still very difficult for them to ever get fully pushed down, but they are dodging. They are keeping themselves in this game. At least the Axe is still finding a lot of net worth. We've got that overwhelming blink being built up, and finally, you see 4Zoomers placing a few wards here to try and catch these heroes going out onto the map, but here we go. It's going to be a big pick bottom. They need to find something here. We saw Alone fading away, but it would take Michael.
Yeah, Michael's just going to sacrifice himself. Lumiere, though, once in, they're on to the Lina, but look at that. He's so dang tanky. They just don't blow him up. Pops a Satanic immediately afterwards, so yeah, he's full up, and Lumiere, this is not great. He's going to get blown up, and we've been talking about it so long, we now actually finally see it in action. He's got 4,200 HP on Gunnar. Maybe if the Cataclysm gets in for its full damage and then you can follow up after that, you can find that kill, but that is asking for so much from the Infamous lineup in terms of finding that kind of pickoff, and if you go in like that, you sort of leave Lumiere kind of dangling a little bit. So you fail to get the kill, and all of a sudden your Axe is sitting up against maybe 3-4 heroes with no immediate escape route.
And really, I don't know if it was Husky or if it was Moo in that situation, but 4Zoomers play so well around their 4-steps. It always feels like whenever this Axe call does go down, it's just barely out of his reach. Even if the taunt does land, he's out of that little danger zone position. Now we've got an Ag Synth up on the Luna already. We've got Cheese moved over to Sand King, who also has a Wind Waker. I don't think anyone's dying in another Axe call from Lumiere, unfortunately. They really need to get some crazy long-winded fight where 4Zoomers run out of mana or get hit by an EMP. I think Infamous are almost out of this game entirely. It feels like we're getting to that point where no one is really able to stand up to either core on the 4Zoomer side. It's just a waiting game.
Yeah, well, they're going to have an attempt at it, but Sacred's already been jumped. They're in onto him. Can they blow him up in time? Not really. Well, okay, never mind. They don't get him the first time around, but that Eclipse just kept on going. Sacred does fall. He'll buy back, though, fairly quickly. They don't want to use the buyback on Lumiere, though, with his death timer so low, but that means Gunnar is able to get in there. He'll take down the Tier 3 tower. He's going to focus on the melee Rex now as well, but the Tornado does clip him. Michael's in, looking for the tossback. They throw the Lina over to the rest of the lineup. If they can find this kill, it would be absolutely massive. The Flicker wasn't really enough initially, but the BKB comes out. The Eul Scepter is there as well, or the Wind Waker, rather, and he's still actually holding the cheese. Now he'll eat it. And Gunnar, he is pissed off. He is going to surge his way forward. They're not able to find any secondary kills, but they do get that lane of Rax, and Infamous, I really don't think this is the moment for them. They missed their opportunity initially. Now you just have to sort of wait or not wait. Lumiere goes in, but the Deafening... The Deafening kind of pushes the Lina back after they had tried to catch him out, but now there's the tossback. They've caught out Envy. They're going to keep him trapped up. Can they get the kill? Not just yet, and even if they do, Envy does have the Aegis to work with, so he's coming back up. They do get through the first life. Cataclysm comes out, so Moo will be falling here as well, but Gunnar, he's going to be the focus. He has no BKB for 20 seconds. There's going to be the tossback play once again. Flicker does get him a little bit further away, but he is still taking massive amounts of damage, and he will fall. Lone gets the kill, and now if you're 4Zoomers, I think you need to get out of your opponent's base, but Envy, he's back into the fight. They get the buyback from the Lina. He's going to use those bots to rejoin the front line, so 4Zoomers... This does feel a little bit risky, but the risk could pay off, and if it does, they might have just broken through the last of those defenses, but you see them sort of hesitating. They're outside of their opponent's base. Gunnar is looking to sort of harass and get some further damage onto the Rax, but he's not going to go all the way in. Gunnar very careful there. Lumiere is waiting for it. He's got the Blink, he's got the Call, he's got the Abyssal Blade, so Gunnar has to try and keep him at bay. using that flicker pretty frequently, but now Alone comes in. Radial Deafening Blast connecting onto 2 or 3. There's going to be the Laguna in response, though, but Lumiere in onto the back line. They're going to lock down the Dark Willow, but Wind Waker saving the day, at least for now. Dark Willow not dead yet, so instead they'll try and turn their focus elsewhere. Gunner, though, really doesn't care. Pops that BKB, gets the damage out. A will be taken down. Gyrocopter buying back in, but there's Michael going for the tossback once again. They've caught Gunner. Can they finish him off, though? Not really. No one else was in position. Michael's the one who gets taken down. Alone now falls as well. He'll buy back, and this feels like Infamous just have to throw everything that they've got into this one. Buybacks are starting to run low. There is one now on Lumiere, and that is it. But over on the other side, for Zoomers, they use the Aegis. They use both of their cheeses. They use a couple buybacks as well, so they're trying to close out the game, but they need to make sure they don't go too far. Gunner is pushing his way forward, but he's making sure he's close enough to his teammates where they could jump in with him if it does turn into a larger engagement, as they've taken down 2 lanes of racks. Do they go for the third? Everyone is up, but they're still going to have to make, okay, headway like that. Sacred gets hit up. There's going to be the Eclipse. Envy really looking for the damage. Sacred's not dead just yet. He just keeps on getting hit. Now Zefreak is in there for the Hex. Sacred dropping low. Can they keep him alive? No, they can't. Sacred will fall. Hung up on the back line. He has 50 HP, so he's not exactly looking to fight either. He has to get back to the fountain. And I think this is Zoomer's opportunity. The tier 3 tower has been taken down. They're sending the illusions forward, though, so they're still showing a little bit of respect. As long as Alone and Lumiere are in there, you do need to be on the lookout for that sort of blink call into that tornado play. So Gunner's going to be the only one sent forward. There's going to be the Deafening Blast, but BKB comes out in time. Gunner finishes off the final lane of racks, and those Megas will be acquired. For Zoomers, though, still haven't quite closed this one out. It's a good step in the right direction, but they need one last push, I think, to really finish this one out.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it is the safe play. It is the correct decision. If Gunner was going to die, it would be a dieback. It would be terrible for him. He buys a full Aghanim Scepter as well as the Aghanim Synth. Once he gets that 25, it's going to be on a 25-second cooldown. He has the Shard as well, so we might see some skewers coming into this final push, coming in to the Infamous base. But at the end of the day, I think for Zoomers, very safe with their victory. I don't think that Infamous can really put up too much more. I think, again, Lumiere missed his timing a little bit whenever it came all the way back, I want to say 25 minutes ago, where he was so farmed, he was so big. His first 2 deaths were so poor. It felt like they really lost a lot of their momentum. That it felt fine because Alone had that one god tier play, but now we're struggling to see any signs of life coming out of their lineup. 42k net worth gold lead. This Wind Waker has been so potent on Moo. He keeps on saving his cores. Anyone that has felt like they were going to die, it's very simply gets Wind Waker. The one time they were able to kill Gunner is whenever Moo made the decision to save his Dark Willow almost over his Lina. He thought that Gunner would have been fine, but instead losing Gunner in sort of the cost of battle. But at the same time, do I think Zoomers need to wait this one out? Do they need to wait for another 8k gold lead to fall into their laps as well as this Roche respawn? Probably not. But do they want to risk losing their Luna, or rather their Lina, in these side lanes to any split push? I don't think so. I think they're going to go for this slow burn, which does give Infamous a very small chance at victory, but I can't emphasize how small I feel like that chance is.
Yeah, it is going to take one hell of a play as Lumiere tried to jump in onto Zefreak, but there's the Wind Waker again. Moo just shuts down everything, and now Alone, he's sort of trapped up in the cogs. The BKB, though, should allow him to fall back, but Infamous are on the run. They've got to get everybody home. Lumiere's looking for the TP, but the Hex from Zefreak, they cancel it out. Now here comes Moo in for the burrow, and there's no way out for this Axe. There's no one here to help him either. He tried to break off really with the intent of TPing away, trying to be as far as possible in the hopes that that would make it less likely for Zoomers to come after him. Instead, it just kind of leaves him with no support. He does have a buyback, though. He's the only member of his team who still has it available, so they can get Lumiere back in, but it really is looking like it's going to take something nearly miraculous at this point to pull it off, but we shall see. They need the buyback move, though. Look at that. In with the burrow onto 3. Good hook in from Husky as well. He traps everyone inside of those cogs, and that's... oh my god, that's just a shooting gallery for Gunner and Envy. They tear through everything. Lumiere's back into the fight, but his backup's already dead. He's going to fall as well, and that's the GG. Envy clears it out with a triple kill. And Zoomers, slow and steady, wins the race for them. They will take the win. I don't know if they get this last kill. Yes, they do. Able to take down A in the fountain, and that is going to close it out for Zoomers with the 2-0 sweep. They have won 4 straight games here to end off the group stage.
Very important for them coming into this group stage again, setting themselves apart from these other teams early on. I think they have a rough few days ahead of them, still needing to play versus Undying, but this was a very good showing. I think the Lena, it does feel like they had a very good idea, especially seeing the opener coming in. If this was going to be a gyrocopter core, I don't think he would have been happy either. And Infamous being able to last pick this axe, they had this opportunity very early on. And you take a look at the win probability, even Dota thought that they would have been able to snowball it just that little bit more. And as soon as Alone even got that play, you saw them claw it back. But every death that happened on Lumiere where he overextends just that little bit too much, where Michael isn't able to connect with his teammates, I think they had a very tight lineup. I think they had a very timing-based lineup, and you play versus a team like 4Zoomers when they draft like this, where 4Zoomers don't really have a timing-based lineup. They have a lineup that will scale infinitely. They will wait on you. They will keep on going further and further and further, and not to discount any of the performances on their team. I think they did a fantastic job of kiting around this monster axe that was in their game, but at the end of the day, he did overextend a few here and there, and there just wasn't that same level of connectivity that we usually do see from this Infamous lineup. And Lumiere, I think we talk about it as he likes to play those initiator carries. He likes to be that second guy in the room, the one who really finishes off a lot of those kills, where I don't feel like he had this in this game, where for the second time Sacred played an offlaner without any natural stun, and unless they're really able to snowball their early game, I think it makes a lot of sense why they struggled versus 4Zoomers lineup.
Yeah, it's just an opportunity, I think, where Infamous were looking okay for a little while, as you sort of mentioned, but you go late into the game against the Envy, Luna, against Gunner on that Lena, just so much right-click damage that eventually you just really, you can't stand up against it. They did have some nice plays here and there, but they were reliant on sort of too many combos. They needed the call, they needed the cataclysm, they needed just sort of so much to go their way. So Infamous can't make it happen. 4Zoomers take the win. That is, again, back-to-back 2-0 sweeps and 4 straight victories for them on this particular day at the group stage. So very nicely done by them. And with that, we actually have to kind of dip out of here kind of quick because we have officially stolen some of Southeast Asia's time. We are kind of stepping on their toes just that little bit. So apology to the SEA boys. But yeah, they're getting started. So I think we're swapping over just as quickly as we can. So we are going to be hopping on out of here. We will be back, ET and I, for another day of group stage action tomorrow. So we will be, again, going at the same time, 1 p.m. Pacific time. So I hope you join us. Hope we have some good Dota to watch tomorrow as well. And we are going to be peacing out. So we'll get you some Southeast Asian action just as quickly as we can. Thank you all for watching, folks, and enjoy the rest of your night.